professional logo for your brand? I use the new Wix logo maker to create one for my startup. I'll show you how.
All right, what's going on, everyone? PTL here, and we're going to build the bottom end of a 1.8T. So hopefully you guys are going to tune in, pay attention, because we're going to go very, very in-depth in building the bottom end on this car, or this engine. So please do your best to kind of refrain from questions as best you can while I work. What's going on? Flame broiled. So we're going to be doing the crank, and then once we're done with the crank installation, we're going to do the rods. But before we do rods, we're going to learn how to do piston rings and gapping piston rings, okay? But let's do the crank because it's the easiest and the fastest thing to install here. Let's get to that. So we're going to find the bolt for this. That looks like a 16, so give me a second here. What's up, Jose? Ah, that's not the right size. It's an 17 or an 18 now. Ah. All right. That's a 17, yep. So we're going to take out the main caps, okay? Now, these are one-time use bolts. You cannot reuse the bolts on the bottom end on these motors, the main caps, if you're going to use factory main caps. Just remember that. They're one-time use and they're stretch. So make sure you can get a set of these locally. If you mess up your install, very important. I was carrying my wayward son in the background. 8-bit, of course. Yeah. Gotta stay 8-bit so we don't get in trouble. Okay, so if we're going to look at this engine from front to back, this is the back side, this is the front, and the way that you know this is the back, because the rear main seal's on this side, and you'll see the water pump hole on the other side. So the water pump technically side is the front. So these main caps are numbered from 1 to 5, left to right, not right to left. Okay? Very, very important. Now, I'm actually on the back side. No, this is the front side. This is the back side of the motor. If we're looking at it inside the engine bay. So make sure to remember that your caps, the numbers, face the back of the engine if you were inside the engine bay looking inside it, front to back, not left to right. Okay? Another very, very important step there is placement of your main caps and the direction also of the main cap, because you can definitely jack up your install if you don't do that. All right, so Usually I use the bolts to wiggle them out if they're in there tight. Okay. So number 4. Number 5. Three. Now, if you're one of those people who forgot the order or you mixed up the order, always remember, get your Bentley guide. Your Bentley guide will tell you where each main cap belongs on top of the direction the main cap will face. Okay? So let's actually look that up as a reference before we proceed. On this motor, we don't know yet what turbo we're going to be running. That's kind of a work in progress after we build and break in the engine. All right, so let's review the Bible. So, good thing I marked the 1.8T with the pink one, so I know exactly where I'm going. Just past it. Okay, so let's get an up close view here. So, see these two markers right here, these two points right here? It's kind of hard to see, but you'll see here, these 2 points right here. That's the back of the motor where the transmission mounts. You'll see there's a number. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll see there's an oil squirter in that area. So that means the order that these go in is from 5 to 1. And then we're going to look right here on this top portion. And you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'll see this is the front of the motor. And those numbers are facing forward. So let's see here. Let me see if I can give you a better reference. So here's number 5. Okay. The number's upside down. So the installation would be like this. On this, oh man. On the side that the number is pointing. So if that's pretty much how we're looking at it, this number would be facing straight up on the side that pretty much on the back side of the engine. So it would go upside down the way that I'm looking at it on the block. So I'll close that bad boy up again. So this is number 5. And it would go in upside down here. Because if we were facing the other direction, you would see the numbers right side up. And that's how we're going to install it in that order. I know it's a little confusing, but again, that's why we use the Bentley manual as a full reference. One thing that you're going to have to remember if this gets machined, make sure to drain any of the fluid that's the hot tank fluid in there. Because when you press these down, these will create pressure. This fluid will create pressure and pretty much can crack your block. So remember that too, okay, guys? So again, this is why we use the Bentley manual to reference everything. So the way that we're going to be building this is upside down with the dipstick facing my dipstick. So all the numbers are going to be upside down when installing your main caps. You can install them backwards, but it's not what you want to do. So And you'll see here, this is pretty much installed backwards with the number 5 facing up. And the reason why it's not the right thing to do is because you'll see the main bearing that goes on there won't be in the right direction and it won't install properly. The main bearing is usually on the other main bearing is usually the opposite of the bottom main bearing. So usually they're always opposite from each other, but on the same side. And that's how you know you got these on correct as well. That's another way you can reference it. If it fits, it sits in my block. Yeah, yeah, Tiny. That's the way to do it. Now, one very, very important and vital step here before you install your crank. Okay, you'll see here where the main bearings sit. That has to be absolutely dry. No oil residue whatsoever. You cannot put any um, assembly lube on these caps. Big no. They have to go on dry. So what I do is I put the bearings first, and then I lubricate the bearing on the inside of the bearing, not the outside of the bearing. That's a big no-no to lubricate the bottom of the bearing. And I'll show you guys that. What's going on, Wayne? So right now I gotta go get my air chuck and blow out all these holes because there's a lot of fluid inside there before we proceed on the building. Because I want to make sure this goes all flawlessly. How's quarantine? As you can see, we're building a motor, so pretty good. Yeah. All right. All right. So we're gonna clear out this one first. Look at the bottom. Make sure you don't see any residue. See, a lot came out of that. And again, you want to make sure these threads are dry. If not, you will cause some fun problems with your block down the road. Not a smart thing to do. Ooh, that had a lot in it. Holy crap. That one too. Jeez. I think we're good. Double check one more time. right, we're good. I'm gonna turn that off. That's loud. All right. Sorry about that, guys, but what has to be done has to be done. Okay, so now that everything's cleaned up, we're gonna go one more time through each one of these main caps, dry them off as best we can. Our goal is to prevent any type of oil residing in this one spot because they have to be dry. Double check your caps. Just clean them all off. All right, so caps are all cleaned off. Make sure you wash your hands as often as you can because you don't want any oils or wear gloves. Now, this is a very rare occasion that I will wear gloves. I hate wearing gloves. I love having greasy hands. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I love having dirty, dirty hands. It's a good feeling, personally. So I got these janky gloves that I've had for years for tiny hands. So I'm going to use them. So we got rod and main cap bearings. We're going to do the rod bearings, so we got to find them. They are almost identical in part number. I think it's just smaller in diameter. I'll confirm that right now. Yep. We're using stock pistons for this setup. Since we're not going like crazy high horsepower, we're staying around the 400 horsepower range. So we're using calico coated bearings. And remember, when you install the main bearings, they have to go in dry. You do not put any lubricant on these at all. And then what you do is you lay them down and you match them with the little notch that's right here on the main cap and push them straight down. That's it. Make sure they're flat, okay, across. And I'll give you guys a close view of that so you guys can see what I'm doing. Oh, look at that. Nice and beautiful view right there. Okay, so I'll put my phone over here. You guys can see this. I have these janky gloves, so you'll see this cap here, or main bearing. You just push it down, left to right, and make sure it's flat on both sides here. They should not have like an edge to them. If they do, push them down a little bit, kind of evenly by hand, and see if you get rid of that edge, just like that. And then work your way down, okay? So we're gonna go down here. Now, one of these main bearings had a little residue due to packaging. Clean them off with a clean, dry rag or towel, something lint-free, if you have it. So these bearings have a special coating on them for a longer life and a smoother rotation. So very, very good bearing for especially for high horsepower applications. They just will increase the lifetime of your motor and your crank. So I'm going to turn you guys around. You guys see that? Awesome. That is working out great. So right here. So now all 5 main bearings are laid down. Now you are allowed to coat them on the outside of the bearing with assembly lube. Do not coat them with oil. You got that? Very, very, very important. So what's going to happen is I'm going to coat them with this and I have to replace my gloves again because obviously my hands are touching this and it's going to suck, but yeah. And remember, just coat the outside of the main bearing. Do not coat the bottom of the bearing. It's a big no-no. So this is considered the top of the bearing, and then the other half is the bottom of the bearing. No coating, no lubrication. You want those dry. So this is going to be a 2-parter live stream, depending on how fast I can get to the piston rings, because piston rings take a while to gap. So it depends on how tired I get. But if I don't get tired, we'll work through the night. I don't care. And the reason why we use assembly lube for main bearings primarily because the lube is tacky. It's not runny like oil. So the lube will do its job once the crank is actually on it. If you put oil on here and you put the crank on here, it's going to drip through here and it's not going to seal correctly. And then you're going to have a bearing that you might spin. And then that's the end of your motor. Full disassembly and do it all over again. All right. Time to take my gloves off. Okay, get you guys back up here. There we go. So now, remember your orientation. This is the back of the motor. This is the front of the motor. So your crank, where the gear is at on the motor, sits over here. The one with the big crank position sensor ring sits over here. Okay? Yeah, correct. So, big. Okay, I'm sorry. I looked at the motor already backwards. This is the back of the motor. This is the front of the motor. Crank position ring sits on this side. Remember that, super, super important. And you have to lay this down as straight as possible. Don't teeter-totter it because you'll scratch the crank. We had the crank polished, so we want that to be beautiful. Bearings, we are using Calico. These are the bearings that we're using. Calico coated, part number right here, CAL 5M1644H. Very, very good bearings. So we're going to grab that crank. And we're going to lay it in here as slow as possible. There we go. Okay. And then one thing I already forgot, I forgot to throw in the thrust washers onto the bottom. I gotta get those really quick. Bad me. And that was already nerve-wracking already as it was. Always replace your thrust washers every time that crank comes out. And your thrust washers come in a set of 4. So now I gotta pop this back out. And the way that you know you need which way to go or which ones you gotta use, there's 2 different kinds of thrust washers. One with the little chingadera right there, and then one without it. The one without is what goes on here on the bottom. You just go in there just like that, and then you drop the crank in, then the other thrust washers sit on top. And I gotta confirm the orientation right now. Let me get my Bentley manual. I'm confirming the orientation here really quick. I believe the notch, that's where the notch is exposed. The picture sucks. Oh, here it is. So so now I know. You'll see there's a notch exposed on the outside of it. You want to make sure that's facing the outside, not the inside of the thrust washer. So that goes for these as well. The bottom thrust washers, make sure these are exposed on the outside of the main cap on the bottom. Okay, there we go. Makes a lot more sense once I look at the proper picture. Now these might fall during your installation, so be careful. There's no oil required. These go on dry. Remember that, guys. No lubrication required. And now your crank goes back in. Ever slow, slightly, and slow. There goes the thrust washer. See? That's why I hate doing these. The top ones are a lot easier than the bottom. There we go. Ah. Whew. Okay. So now that we got that one done, we have already lubricated the lobes on the cam. The crank. But we're gonna do it one more time on just the top portion. And very minimal, like light as possible, because you want to make sure when you put the next main cap on here, it doesn't slip through it and get into the actual groove. Um, Again, you don't use a lot. It's on this portion, since it's polished, you don't need much of anything on the crank. Because the pressure of the once you install the main caps, it's going to squish all that fluid or tacky assembly lube in there, and you don't want it to get on the main bearing. So you just rub it in lightly, and that's it. Nothing crazy. So I'm gonna go wash my hands, and then we're gonna put some gloves back on, and then we're gonna put the main caps on here. Okay? All right. Get my gloves on. one last time. Because after that, you don't need gloves. So what do you do for the rods? Hopefully I can find some more gloves. These gloves don't even fit. Look at that. So man, these gloves are for dwarves. But I gotta keep my hands clean during this job. All right, so now clean your main bearings one more time. I mean your main caps. Make sure you didn't put any oil on them. Okay. So we're gonna get a close up here. That's sketchy as all heck, by the way. Okay. Here come the main bearings. So hopefully you guys can see that up and close. This has a notch here. And you'll notice that your your main cap has the same matching notch. And then what you're going to do is put that in there, walk it down, just like that. See? No oil, nothing. This is number 5. Remember what we said, 5. Since this is the front of the engine, if you're looking inside your MK4 engine bay, this is the front of the motor where the dipstick's at. As per the Bentley guide, the number 5 faces this way, upwards. So technically it looks like this. Okay? Now, the thing I hate about these is there's like no room to put them in and put them down slowly and nicely. It's just one of my biggest things I don't like doing on this spot right here. It's so sketch. Now, I'll get to that in a little bit. We're just going to walk our way down. That was number 5. There's number 4. One thing you got to remember, try to get these as low as you can go by hand. It's not the easiest thing to do. Do not hit them in with a hammer. You can tap them with a mallet, but that's it. If it goes down too hard, it will scratch the surface of your crank and cause pretty much a wear mark, and then that wear mark will increase and decrease over time while that engine spins. Just so you guys know, this is a very delicate process. So we're doing main bearing number 3, and this is the center bearing. And the reason why I know this is the middle one, because it has the option for the thrust washers. So you'll see the notches here, and we're going to show you how to lay those in there in just a moment. Dang it. Okay. So here, thrust washer number 1, and you'll see what's very, very important for this installation is that these notches are sticking out, not on the inside. Okay? And the reason why, because you can't install it. Okay? Very, very important installation feature. Now, these are really tricky to install because you got to hold them. And that's why they give you these little notches right here on the sides to hold them during the installation. If you don't got crappy gloves like I do, life would be a lot easier. Okay, those are in. So I hope you guys are learning something with me, taking in all this information, because you'll see how easy it is to do this. It's really a matter of just patience and patience. Lots of patience. We're down to the last main cap. All right. Now you can take your gloves off. I agree. I gotta buy gloves that fit, but you know how rare I use gloves. It's so rare. It's not even funny. All right, gloves are off. So remember when I talked about the bolts? These are OEM bolts. They're one-time use. You can never reuse main stud or main cap bolts because they are stretch bolts. So, or what we all the technical term for them is torque to yield. So put everything in here by hand. Do not torque anything down at all. And I'll show you why in just a moment. You have to order 10 of these, 2 per cap. Oop, and I already have a mess up right now. I just caught that. Number 3 is installed backwards. See, I'm not paying attention. I get excited and I don't focus. And the good thing is that we don't put these in super tight or torque them down until for sure everything's oriented correctly. Hold on. Yeah, that's upside down. This is right side up. Okay. Yes, ring gapping is the difficult part, which we are going to be doing next once this crank is installed. Hi, baby. Why aren't you asleep? Why is she not asleep? Teeth hurt? So using your ratchet, you're going to go down, and you're not going to push these all the way down, just so you guys know. We're only going to get them to the point where the bolt goes down, and you walk it on the other side too. Everything has to go in by hand, guys. If not, you will damage the main cap, and that's the end of it. I double check my install process. Okay, so reading on here, it is not specific to which one of these goes down first. So let's keep it going. Oh, why? Oh, there we go. All right, so I'm not gonna push these down anymore until I get the middle one going. So right now I'm only getting the bolts down, but not touching the cap itself. It's not actually moving the cap at all. So I'm just getting the bolts down to where it starts to touch the cap to push it down, but it's not actually pushing it down. Because we're going to turn one at a time down. Because if you turn one side down more than the other, what's going to happen is the cap is going to go sideways and start scraping your crank, and then you're just going to cause all fun damage. That's what we're trying to prevent. Now, when you guys ever take apart a crank, this crank positions that ring right here. This ring is a one-time use ring. So the moment you unbolt it, you have to replace it because you'll never get it centered again, and it will never work correctly. What's going on, Jonathan Mendoza? Okay, so this ring, if you ever, for any reason, you remove it, you have to get a new one. It's a one-time use ring. Okay, if you leave it alone, then you're fine. Just never drop it or bend it, because the moment that thing bends, you're never gonna get the car to turn on. Okay. Whew. So whenever I bolt things down, I always work from the middle. So here, kind of like that, the middle out. And in the Bentley manual, it does not specify which order to do it in. So there isn't a specific way of bolting this down. As per the Bentley manual, I could be very wrong, but I'm following my Bentley manual. So here goes nothing, guys. And we're only going to hand tighten these. This is not going down to torque specs, just so you guys know. Okay, snug. So now we're going to work left to right, like that. And that's all the way down. Hey. There's no crying on working on cars.
Yeah, right.
There's no crying in baseball.
There's lots of crying. Good night, Daddy. Say good night, Daddy.
You can actually give me a kiss this time? Oh, wow, she started crying. Hey, hey, hey. No, scare my own daughter. Yeah. Such a drama queen. Yay! Pretty teeth, pretty teeth. Hold on, one, two. This one is what? I can't see. No, she's closing her mouth. All right, last one. Right, Tiny? Wrenching is always such a good feeling. You're just in your own little zone, doing your thing, building a race car. All right, so all main caps are down. Okay, so now we're going to torque these to spec, and then we got to give them a quarter turn, aka a 90 degree. So that's next. So they go on at 48 foot-pounds. So we're going to grab ourselves our actual big torque wrench here, and then we'll get the 17 millimeter half-inch. And remember, this goes down at 48 foot-pounds, guys. 65 Newton meters for you guys in the UK. All right, 48. Nice and snug. Again, same procedure from it in to out. So middle one first. So 3, 4, 2, 5, and then 1. Okay? Now, if you have a buddy with you, this will make life a lot easier. All right, 48. And then keep a constant eye on your torque wrench. Make sure it doesn't loosen up or back out. Okay. Still 48. And I'm using my foot right here at the bottom to keep the engine from spinning, moving as I crank this down. All right. Woo. And you'll see the crank now spins nice. I'm not going to rotate it, but you'll see I don't have no effort to turn the crank at all. Once you know everything's torqued to spec, but we're not done yet. Now we have to give everything, all of these, a full 90 degree from here down. So that's what we call a quarter turn, but 90 degrees from top. So what I do love to do is like to mark them and then turn them, because that's how you stretch the crap out of these bolts. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna get my marker here and mark them all. Oh, my marker's right here. I'm gonna mark them all. So if you have a straight edge, I would use it. If not, use the block as your reference. I'm using a black marker, not the smartest of colors to use on this, but you can still see it. Be right back and grab my big ass breaker bar. Okay, so this is the part of the video that I might not be able to do by myself. I'll find out in just a moment. Depends on how much this engine will, engine will spin on me. We'll see right now. I'm trying to get you guys a good view here. Front seat, you know that? Front view seat. All right, so Again, using your marker points as your 90 degrees, as long as they're straight, you're going to do a full rotation. In other words, half a turn, quarter turn. Usually from the marker from up here down is what we call a quarter turn, or what I like to call a 90-degree turn, because it's actually from top to bottom is 90 degrees from wherever you are. It's always the opposite of it as a 90. Okay, a full rotation is 180. Just so you guys know, some people don't know that. So since you can't see it, just remember where you're supposed to be. That's why you use your marker. I might need to get my wife over here to hold the motor for me. I'm only a quarter turn. Almost there. That's one bolt. Jeez. Almost there. Forgot how hard these things are turn. Just a tad more and we're there. All right. That's the first 90-degree turn. They don't snap. They stretch, Tiny. The solid bolts are the ones that snap. These are meant to stretch. That's why they're called stretch bolts. That was a lot easier. Jeez. All right. Woo. That's one. All right, so this is the first one done. I'm going to try to mark my breaker bar. No. And remember, don't do these fast. Take your time when you torque these down. Because the faster you go, you might end up snapping a bolt. Okay, that's one. David, give me a second, because Some of these motors came. So this one's done. This one's done. Some motors came with wrist washers on top and bottom. Some of them only came with top ones. It depends on not the code, but the year of the motor. Some motors, like I said, some motors code, not the code, but just the year in general. It's kind of weird, but it is really random on which one does and doesn't come with them. All right, there's that one. Jeez, what's up with these commercials? I am tense. Believe me, I'm the same way. That's why I'm taking my time. It's always a tense moment with these bolts because they're not very deep. The heads are very shallow on these. We're almost done though, guys. Oh, that one's done. Oh. Give that a mark. Oh. So now, middle. So cylinder 3. Not cylinder 3. Main bearing 3, 4, 2. We're on number 5 now. All right, here we go. It sucks. I'm only giving my right arm a workout. All right, there's that one. Okay. Woo, one left to go, man. Such a good feeling. Nope. All right. Come on. Whew. Oh, sketchy. Oh my god.
It's not pretty good or nothing. It's not acceptable or nothing. And it's definitely not close
Done.
or nothing.
Woo.
Mercedes-Benz SUVs were engineered with only one mission in mind: to be
That's all of them, guys.
in the category,
Oh man.
any industry, in the world.
Ah, what a good feeling to have those done.
Is the GLE 299 a month?
But again, your crank should spin
Mercedes-Benz deal.
pretty
Mercedes-Benz
easily,
the best or not?
meaning you did it right. The main bearings didn't catch on the actual crank itself, so you shouldn't have to worry about any damage. All right. Oh man. Whew. Yep, set it and forget it, dude. Now I'm tired. Okay. So the next step is not even on the block anymore. We gotta do pistons, and what we have to do is gapping the rings, and we gotta gap each piston ring individually per cylinder. Each piston uses 3 piston rings, so it means we have 3, 6, 9, 12 rings to gap. So that means we gotta turn this block around, and we're gonna learn how to gap piston rings. Nope, wrong way. Okay. Well, what does gapping mean? This is a very important. We're gonna turn the music down. This is one of the most important steps you'll ever learn in a motor. I gotta get a chair for this. Whew. And you need a Bentley manual for this as well. If not, you will not be able to gap your piston rings correctly. Okay? Now I'm going to explain this to you guys as we work. Um, okay, so I'm going to get my feeler gauge so I can show you guys. Oh, this really blows. I don't have my feeler gauge. So we're going to show you how it's done, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to do it. I don't have my tool to do it, but it's really, really simple. It's just time consuming. So you get your pack, the piston rings here. Yep. Okay. You have to know the difference between each piston ring, and because it's very, very important. And so we're going to explain it to you, okay? Because it's three different types of piston rings, okay? So pay attention, students, because this is what you're going to learn today. Okay, there's three different kinds of piston rings. There's an oil ring, a scraper, and a compression ring, okay? And we're going to show you the difference between all three rings, okay? Very, very carefully. This is an oil ring. This is the ring that sits on the bottom of the piston. So this is cylinder number 1. So this meets to this, okay? So here's your piston, okay? You have 3 tiers. Compression, scraper, and oil, okay? This one is very, very specific, meaning there's a very unique little ring inside this ring itself. You'll see that very close. These are okay if they get wet with oil, just so you guys know. But there's a little spring inside here. You need to be very careful with that. You got to take it out, okay? And then you put it inside the piston, not on the piston, but inside your cylinder, and you measure the gap here. Okay, we're gonna do it with the first ring, the actual compression ring, because that one's a lot easier to do it with. Good morning. Good morning. So this is the actual compression ring. This is like the thickest ring out of all three. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your piston ring inside here, ever so gently. Do not bend these because they snap. Okay, and what you want to do is not that. Make sure this piston ring is as pretty much as flat as possible. Okay. I don't have my gapping tool. Unfortunately, I don't know where it's at. So we're gonna use this as a reference. Number 1, if you have a good machine shop, they're gonna chamfer your cylinders here. What that means is that they give them an angle right on the little edge, a little tiny grind to let that piston ring go in really nice and smooth when you do the whole entire piston install, okay? But what you need to do is measure the gap right here, this little gap. I'm gonna get you there super close, okay, guys? There it is right there. That gap, there's a specific measurement for that, okay? And each piston ring has its own measurement. Remember that. Very, very important. And so for this top ring, you're allowed 0.02 to 0.4 space in here, okay? That is how much space you're allowed. Now, if this ring has too much, let's say too much gap, you're gonna have to go oversized piston rings. You have to go bigger, one size over, which means this block has to go back to the machine shop and get cut. Okay, one more time. The good thing is that we did not, when we took this to the machine shop, the machinist said all four cylinders were perfect. They were not out of round. nicely worn. So we might not have to do anything. We just might have to just grind this ring probably 1,000th, and then we're done pretty much. So let's assume that this is 0.1. Okay. So that means this gap has to be enlarged. Okay. So it's very important. So we bought a special tool for that. This guy right here. This is a piston ring grinder. Okay. So you take your ring back out. You put it over this tool, just like so. And it has two sides that it cuts on. You just go over here, spin it, give it a little grind. Spin it like very minimal, like for a second. Take it out, put it back in, measure that gap. Still not there. Do it again. Do it over. Cut as many times as you need, as slow as possible, because if not, you're going to overcut them, and then you're effed. Does that make sense? That's correct, user Pike. We got to go much further down. That is correct. Yeah, I'm only doing this as reference, but yeah, you want the piston ring, I'd say about an inch and a half down, because over time these do wear open more, and these are not accurate measurements up here. They're more accurate down below. So user Pike is correct. Go as far down as you can go, and do your gapping all the way down there. So before we close out the day, we're gonna assemble the pistons, and then we won't put piston rings on it, obviously, because we still gotta do the gapping. But I'll show you how to assemble pistons. They're super simple. We'll do one, and then I'll just finish them off later. But let me show you guys that. It's really easy process. Oh, yeah. All right, so you can see my layout here. There it is. There we go. So I have them left to right. So cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. Everything's been oiled on the oh my god, the wrist pins have been greased with using assembly lube. All the pistons have been chemically cleaned, as you can see. They look pretty much brand new. We just cleaned the crap out of them, and then we're gonna assemble them. They're super easy to assemble. I last time I did this, I asked Integrated Engineering if there was a direction for their rods, and there isn't. Because so the factory rods do have a direction for mounting. These do not. And you'll see how I just did that. That wrist pin went in beautifully. Properly lubricated, they go in nicely. Okay. And remember, using assembly lube is going to be your best friend in this process here. There's a little clip here. You grab some tweezers, and this is kind of like your locking pin. And make sure that the gap is opposite from the hole. You see right here, there's a gap opposite from the hole itself. And then you just pinch the crap out of it until it goes in. They're not easy to dump in, just so you guys know. They're a pain in the butt. I'll do that later. I don't want to do them right now. you just pinch these down, and then they just slide into the hole, but they don't go in that easy. They are a pain. Before the pistons and everything else is installed, make sure that the rod itself, where the rod bearings install, are dry and oil free. They do not require lubrication. No bueno, no lubrication. Okay, guys, you do not put lubrication on these things. I don't know how many times I'm going to tell you that, but no lubrication. Okay. The only time you put lube is on the crank or on the outer side of the bearing, or no, inner side of the bearing, just like how we did the crank. The bottom of the bearing is always dry, and then the top of the bearing is lightly lubricated, not heavily, just lightly, so it can go on the crank nicely. Okay, so unfortunately, I don't have anything else for you right now since I don't have my gapping tool. I don't have my my gapper set. I don't know where it's at. I gotta go find it. I think I left it in my bus, since we use that a lot on the bus. User Pike, we did not get them rifle drilled. IE had a crazy delay on their rods for rifle drilling, so we opted for just a standard rod. Prodigy Gaming, what's the build? It's pretty much a 1.8T. We upgraded to integrated engineering H-beams rods, which are good for 600 horsepower. The power goal for this motor is actually about 350 to 400, maybe. Honestly, it's actually just more designed to be a fun, daily driven, like good horsepower engine. The guy, my friend Ian, the owner of this car, pretty much wants an engine that will last him a lifetime. You know, a good 200,000 miles with no issues. Well, I told him, I'll go, we can build it and not worry about throwing a rod when you have that much power, and bending a rod, actually. The only thing is, obviously, with higher horsepower motors, gapping is extremely essential. Proper lubrication is super essential, and as well as making sure that we properly measure and everything that goes in before it's installed. That's why we're gapping everything. We are cleaning everything that needs to be cleaned. On this one, we don't need to replace the dipstick. It's actually a different style dipstick on this motor. It's kind of weird, tiny. Right here, I actually, if you guys see here, is the oil pump. I actually did a chemical bath on it and cleaned everything out of it. And then I ended up dumping a bunch of oil inside of it and some lubrication. And then we ended up started gapping, because there's actually a spec here for the oil pump. And everything's within specifications for an oil pump that's this old. It's pretty cool. So this oil pump is actually still, I think, almost 1,000 plus within specifications. So the original owner of this motor took really good care and did proper lubrication. You'd be surprised on how bad some of these things wear down, or the engines wear down, when oil changes aren't done properly or at the proper increments. It's very crazy. So, I mean, that's it for tonight. Sorry, guys. I wish I could do more, but I don't have my tool to actually finish this job. I'm going to have to go look for it and see what's going on. But we did a full crank install, so that's not bad. I mean, it's pretty good. We did learn about gapping. We did learn about pistons. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is, once I get my tool, I'm going to do 3 piston installations, and then I'm going to show you guys live how to do the actual whole install. But this way we can proceed further on finishing the rest of the engine. That way we can get it all taken care of. Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. Let's see if you guys can see me here. A little bit more. There you go. So right now, I've been working my ass off in making 3D printed facials, mask supports. And my wife and I have been going around the city, or the county actually, dropping off these surgical mask supports for your head. All it does is alleviates the stress on the side of your ear. So we're 3D printing them and we're giving them away. We're not charging anybody anything. If you guys want any in your area, please email me. I'm glad to ship you guys a ton of them. They're, like I said, again, they're 100% free. Just got to pay for shipping. I can ship you 100, ship you 200, 400. I don't care. The whole point is to make sure that we have less strain on our ears and stay healthy. Right now, my Facebook page, my normal one, my personal, I did start a fundraiser. We're trying to raise $400. That's allowing us to pay for more filament and another 3D printer. We're not trying to buy expensive 3D printers. I use $200 3D printers. I just modify the living crap out of them to make them work like $1,000 printers. I kind of geek out on that kind of stuff, so that's me. But please, if you guys can donate $5, $1, anything on my fundraiser on Facebook, please do. It'd be greatly appreciated. We actually almost hit the halfway point. We needed less than $200 or $200 to do it. My wife and I, again, we're putting ourselves at risk, leaving our house from quarantine. Obviously, we are taking proper measurements to wear facial masks, gloves, and keeping our social distancing to 6 feet or more. We're just dropping this stuff off and just giving them. We're not asking for anything in return, people. We're giving business cards, obviously, to everybody, just to get more of these facial mask supports out there to everyone in the public. We're giving them to people who are essential, meaning if you work directly with the public, health, retail, supermarkets, services, please hit me up. I'm more than willing to ship them to you, 100% free. Just pay for shipping, okay, guys? So, I just want you guys to know that I'm here to help you guys. I'm not here to gain any profits from anyone. One of the things I despise a lot in the YouTube famous world is people make a lot of money off of you guys, and it's not fair. Obviously, you're getting money for either something stupid that they do, fun that they do. I don't care. I'm not here to gain any money. I'm here to give knowledge, give you guys the courage and self-esteem that you guys can do this on your own as well. This is the whole point of my channel, is to help and not gain anything for my personal gain, but to give you guys as much gain as possible, to get you guys out there wrenching, helping your fellow man, and having fun. That's honestly my biggest thing, is you guys have fun doing it and not being afraid to do it. You guys don't understand how many comments I get about thank you for helping me do this. We got actually 3 people that hit me up, said right after I just filmed doing the head build, they built their own heads on their own. And you don't understand how much that makes me feel super happy, and I appreciate you guys beyond belief. And all I ask for is just a thanks. A lot of if you guys know, obviously I have an online store with merchandise. That merchandise, legitimately, the money that I make off of that literally goes back into the show. We do not spend a single dime on ourselves with it. I believe it's selfish, and I don't want to be selfish. I'm very more on the opposite. I'm selfless. I'd rather give than receive, and I work my ass off for that. So, again, please do donate if you can. Donate a couple bucks to the cause. Just hit up my Facebook page. It's right there. It's a quick fundraiser. $5, $10, or whatever you can will be 100% appreciated. Like I said, we just hit our halfway mark. I ordered a bunch of my filament, so I'm going to be able to pump hundreds and hundreds more of these facial mask supports and donate them to hospitals, clinics, retail buildings, everybody that works direct into the public, and at no cost. Okay, my cost is my time, my money with my machines. Obviously, I'm using my machines to give away stuff, so I'm putting my machines obviously to risk, and we're going to make them fail. I don't care. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to make sure that everybody's happy and we all have fun doing it. So thank you for everybody who tuned in to this awesome channel. Let me read these comments. Hold on. Hey man, I got a question for an 04 Audi 1.8T. My mechanic said bearing on the cam is messed up. I need a new block rebuild. I won't. The head and the block are two different things, man. See if you can get that information correct. Hit me up, message me on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll talk some more because that information doesn't sound right. Quorum, Adrian, thank you in advance. Love your videos. Thank you too, sir, for the definitely the nice feedback and positive information. Quorum, thanks, Al. You're the man. You've helped do all of my Deli coilovers, and the list goes on. True legend. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Tiny, one of the best guys I know. Don't brown nose fool. Even though your nose is already brown, don't brown it. Make it even darker. Love you too, though, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Obviously, I did mention this is part 1. Part 2 will be tomorrow when I get my proper tool, so we can finish off the block, and then we're gonna make the 2. We're gonna get those 2. We're gonna get the head and the block together, and then part 3 is doing all the timing. Timing is always a video that I do on its own because I get tons of questions. So what's my Instagram? Pretty straightforward. Pinchao's Garage. Pinchao's_garage. It's very, very simple to find. Or just type in Pinchao's and you'll find it. All one word, guys. And you'll find my Instagram. You'll find my Facebook. You'll find everything about me. 100% open in the world. Even my phone number is on all of that. It's public information. I definitely love phone calls from everybody around the world. I pick them up. I don't care. It's a lot of fun chatting with you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please stay safe out there. Stay healthy. If you guys need any of the facial mask or any advice, please don't be scared. Don't be ashamed to ask as many questions as possible. I'm here to help, and I'm here with an open mind and open to all your questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. However, there is such thing as a stupid person. And what I mean by that is if you take my advice and you don't listen to it or you just don't care, please, by all means, don't talk to me again. I get really offended when people second guess my advice or second guess my information, and then they go off and do something else and they end up making their car worse. Get yourself a VADCOM or a really good OBD2 reader. Get yourself a good software to read codes is my number one thing. Please don't ask, oh, my car is doing this. What do you think it is? I don't freaking know. One symptom can mean 100 different problems. Understand that, guys. I cannot diagnose a car with just a symptom. I need a P code. I need some type of diagnostic work you guys have done besides this is what it's doing. I can only give you a generic answer because you're giving me a generic question. So I've learned that these engines are pretty robust. Yes, they're probably one of the best engines out there personally in reliability. Prodigy, with these rods, okay, and factory pistons, you can make 400, 500 horsepower reliably on these engines with no problems. What's going to actually end up being your problem is breathing. the head's gonna not be able to handle anything over 400 without doing some serious head work. Again, this whole build that we've been doing is strictly for up to 400 horsepower, which in all honesty is more than enough power on a Mark IV for daily driving. Obviously, you can make more, but we need to start forcing some decent amount of money into the transmission after that. Ask him, but I know. Okay, Adrian, I want to ask him, but I know for sure he said a new block. Again, Adrian, if you spun a rod, then all you need to do is disassemble the block, put new bearings like we just did right now, and go from there and rebuild it again from scratch. If you're going to do all that, though, definitely invest in making some power. Okay? Thank you again, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful night. Be safe. And as always, here at BTL's Garage, we're going to break, we're going to fix, and we're going to repeat because that's what we do. And again, if you see a fellow dubber on the road, give him a thumbs up, give him a peace sign because we got to respect one another because we're all human. And respect is a valuable thing to me personally versus anything else in the world. So respect one another and love one another. Have yourself a wonderful night. Again, I sound like a broken record, but be safe. Peace out, everyone.